our souls know each other. And I just gave him this, he kind of wanted to give me a side hug, but I just grabbed him and I pulled him fully into me and I kissed him on the cheek and I'm like, I'm so happy to see you. And he just smiled and we said a few words and then I hugged him, kissed him again. Then I popped back in my car and I left. And one thing is that every time you make a decision, you just stop for a second and you go, does this decision bring life? Live spelled backwards is evil, okay? And evil is the antithesis of life. As we get closer to this large vibratory energy that we are birthing into the universe, okay, then we become powerful, we become peaceful, we become joyful, we become people that can create in wholeness, holiness, and symmetry.
You know, you were talking about gravity a few minutes ago and how that holds us down. And I was thinking about how do we reach escape velocity? And I'm usually thinking about that in terms of rockets, but what is it? What would that mean spiritually?
I like the example of a rocket, you know, that are, and these numbers aren't be exact, but they'll be close. It takes 80% of the fuel in a rocket to get it off the planet. Okay. And then the last 20% is used to maneuver through space. The spiritual walk is very much like that. You have to peel off the mud. You have to peel off. As we come into this world and we're lacquered as a baby, when a baby comes into the world, we look at it and we go, oh, because the spirit is pure in that baby. But then we teach the baby that there's lack in the world and we teach them hate because we discipline them wrong and then we tell them that, you know, this is the only true religion, or, you know, this is the way you need to go to college, get a good job, make a living. We put all these things on our children, on our babies, and we abuse them. I mean, they get sometimes, unfortunately, they get sexually abused and physically abused and mentally and emotionally bullied and all these things. So the spiritual walk, as I said earlier, is a walk of subtraction, and it's just like that rocket taking off. You've got to, with awareness, start to look at your belief systems, look at your healing, look at your traumas, and slowly, and this is not easy work. It takes a long time. At least it took me a long time. I know some people go through it a lot faster. But it's living that magnificent symphony life that we talked about. But you start stripping just one thing at a time with awareness. And the lighter you get, right? You physically get lighter, you feel lighter, your light starts shining more through. As you strip and start to strip and start to strip, it gets easier. And then you get to this point where things just start to get magical. I was sitting, and you know, these are small things, but I'll often sit and just think about, I call this whole thing the unfolding. It's like it all starts with God, and then he's just allowing the universe to unfold. So I was sitting in front of the dentist's office in Bessemer, Alabama, about a week or two ago, and I can't sit in the waiting room because of fluorescent lights and everything just makes me a little claustrophobic. Right. And so I'm like, I asked the lady at the front desk if I could just take my cell phone. They could call me when it was time for an appointment. or it was my time to come in. And she said, sure. And I ended up waiting like almost 4 hours, but which is fine. I needed to go see the dentist at that point in time. So I just walked out in front of this little dentist's office, just a very plain building in Bessemer, Alabama. People in there are very nice too. And there were a couple little planters there and with flowers in them. And there was a little concrete pad, and it was right up against the outside brick wall of the dental office. So I just stripped my shirt off, sit cross-legged, leaning up against the building. The sun was shining down on me. And I just kind of dropped into meditation for, I don't know how long, 20, 30 minutes. As I dropped out of meditation, and I was sitting there in the sun, it was a cooler day, and the sun felt really good, but it was starting to get warm now. And, the stones and the bricks all around me were getting warm, and I got thirsty. And I thought about going inside and drinking out of the water fountain, but I really didn't want to go inside. And I knew I had water in my car, which is a block away. But I knew the water was going to be warm by then. And I'm thinking, I really wish I had a cold bottle of ice water. And all of a sudden, this beautiful woman walks by me, and she's got 2 bottles of water. And she looks down at me, sitting there with my shirt off. And me sitting cross-legged in front of the dentist's office with my shirt off is a little off-putting to most people, okay?
Right.
But I like being in the sun, and I like the wind to blow across my body. And we can talk about sunbathing and wind bathing too, and being in nature. But she looked at me and she goes, "You look thirsty. Would you like a bottle of water?" And she handed me a bottle of water. And I'm going, this is the type of stuff that happens once you start to get light and you just let the universe unfold. And you trust that the plan that you made for yourself before you come into this planet is unfolding in the most perfect way that it can. Even though a lot of times you hit that brick wall and you go, I am fucking tired of this, But then you also have those moments where it just unfolds so perfectly. And you see that spirit, that lady had a beautiful heart. And why did she pick up 2 bottles of water? What was she doing with 2 bottles of water walking right in front of me? I have no idea. But I commonly might get ready to go to the grocery store or go ride my bike or something. And then I'll go, I need to do something else before I leave. And then I'll do that thing, and then I'll leave, and then I'll run into somebody. And then I'll have somebody that I know or don't know, and then I'll end up having this beautiful conversation with them. My friend Larry, who took the picture on my book, I ran into him one day when I was riding my bike, and I was up on one of the bridges in Birmingham. And he was walking along taking pictures. And I said, "Hey, dude," I said, "take a picture of me, would you?" And so he took a couple pictures of me. And I said, "Will you send those to me?" And so we exchanged emails. And that was, I don't know, 3 years ago or something. And about once every 6 months, I'll run into Larry as he's walking downtown, and he carries his camera with him. He's a beautiful soul. But I was coming off a pretty heavy spiritual energy experience just about a week or 2 ago. And I was going to run to the store, and I'm like, no, I'm going to do this other thing first. And then I got to that point where I just knew it was time for me to walk out the door. So I walked out the door, went to the grocery store, and on the way back from the grocery store, I hadn't seen Larry in 6 or 9 months. There was Larry walking down the sidewalk. So I had my music on, my windows were open, I was cranked up loud, I was cranked up. And I pulled my car over real quick, and I turned it off, and I jumped, and I'm waving at Larry. I don't know that he's ever seen me in my car before. He wasn't exactly sure what was going on.
No.
And I hopped out of my car, And I ran over and I was just filled with this divine energy and love. And I just grabbed him. And he's a middle-aged man like me, and I'm white and he's black, and but our souls know each other. And I just gave him this. He kind of wanted to give me a side hug, but I just grabbed him and I pulled him fully into me and I kissed him on the cheek. And I'm like, I'm so happy to see you. And he just smiled and we said a few words. And then I hugged him and kissed him again. Then I popped back in my car and I left. And those things happen when you get lighter and you honor the unfolding. And I don't know what the question was, but I think I'm
that
done.
Story, though. I love it when people just run up and hug you. I think there's something magical about that.
It is.
Yeah. My friend Mark tells jokes about the fact that I can't go anywhere without collecting a hug from someone.
Yay.
Yeah. Even in airports, that just slays him. We'll be in another state and somebody that I know from somewhere will run up and gift me with a hug. And I think that is just the best treat in life.
It is, because the heart is our love center, and the energy from our body comes up and out like an apple, and it comes back down and around. And I don't remember what that's called, but it's it goes like this, right? But when you hug somebody, and you can also open and close your heart energy. Okay, you can practice stuff like that. Like, you'll meet some people that are, that their heart's more closed, and you meet some people their heart's more big. And you can actually take and expand your heart energy like out like this far if you want to, and maybe further. But when you're open and your heart energy is open and two people hug, that there's an energy exchange there.
There is.
Okay. A beautiful, and that's why you like to hug and like to be hugged, right?
Yes.
It's a beautiful exchange of love energy. So
I especially like hugs that are like you commit to the hug. Some people are just hit and run huggers.
right.
And those are, or they try to side hug you, like you said, and that doesn't work. But there's some science behind, what is it, a 20-second hug?
I don't know this.
I'm not good with numbers, but it's more than 6 seconds. And it's a real difference in how it affects your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like that. So I think people should just commit to their hugs.
I agree. But when people aren't in touch with their inner spirit, they feel a need to kind of shield themselves a little bit. And a big open heart hug requires vulnerability.
It does.
But in vulnerability is also invulnerability is also authenticity. So,
True. It's when you're most real.
exactly.
Is it Winnie the Pooh? It's all about being real?
I don't know.
Or is that I can't remember. Oh, well, there's some book that's about being real that I think is really important.
Okay, we'll find that.
Senility is a lovely thing. It's a lot of fun.
Senility is fun. We could talk, let's talk about senility for just a second. I've been close to a number of people that have had Alzheimer's. And in a way, and not just Alzheimer's, but being close to death. As you get kind of further down the spiritual path, some of the things that you used to remember, you just don't remember anymore because they're not important. As we get closer to death, we get closer to piercing the veil, okay? And so sometimes you see people that are about ready to die, or they're in, they remember old experiences. They don't really remember what they had for lunch. Okay. But they also sometimes talk to their relatives or ancestors that are dead on the other side. And people go, well, they're just making that up. It's that the veil between us and the rest of the universe gets thin, and they can perceive that. And that's the same thing with, energy workers and seers and things like that. They've got an ability to pierce through that veil. But as you go down, in my mind, as you go down the spiritual path, some people have better memories than others. But some of the factoids don't become as important as just living in truth and authenticity.
You were talking about the veil being thin when we're ready to make the crossing. And I am reminded of my story about my grandfather, who he had been widowed for a number of years. And one morning, this giant gruff man gets up out of bed and tells the nursing staff that he's got to get dressed in his best suit. He has to shave. He has to shower. He has to look good, because Leela came and said that she was coming to get him today. Leela being my grandmother.
Right.
And he got cleaned up and sat down on his bed to wait for Leela and left us.
Oh. You told me that story, and that is a beautiful story. And that's a perfect example of that thinning of the veil right before you die.
Yep.
God bless him, and God bless your grandmother too. And they're here.
Goodness. Okay. So you mentioned earlier about being spiritually aware. And in your book, you talk about 2 awarenesses that you think are really important.
Yes. Okay. So here's, if I can remember them.
Well, one of them is about that every choice that we make is about, whether it's giving life or not.
Right. So, practical part of spiritual awareness in my book is how can we put these little practices into place? Practical things that we can do on a day-to-day basis to help us behold, help us be holy, to help us bring goodness, godness into the world. Okay. And one thing is that every time you make a decision, you just stop for a second and you go, does this decision bring life? Okay. Does it bring life to me? Does it bring life to the people that will be affected by that decision? Or does it bring the antithesis of life? Okay. And I always say that live, which is life, okay, we're living life. Live spelled backwards is evil, okay? And evil is the antithesis of life, okay? So, walking down the street, somebody pulls out in front of you, you can make a decision to flip them off, okay? Or you can make a decision to say, I bet that person's having a hard day.
Mm-hmm.
Bless them and bless their situation. Because does it really matter that I get home a second faster?
No, it doesn't.
And does it really matter that somebody pulled their car in front of me? I mean, my God, this is just bullshit stuff that we think about. So, but everything, whether you're going to start a company, whether you're going to have a child, whether you're going to buy a new car, whether you're going to, whether you're going to bring flowers to your wife, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You can look at each single decision as you go throughout your day, and you can either choose something that's more life-giving, and there's not one thing. This is a spectrum, right? I mean, some
As is
things-
everything.
As is everything. That's exactly right. So maybe not choosing to buy my wife flowers is not critical, and it's not like I'm doing evil toward her.
No, but you should always buy your wife flowers. Always.
I have bought lots of flowers.
The answer is always yes.
The answer is always yes. So, but every little decision that you make, you just go, is this life-giving or is it not life-giving? And sometimes we're confused. We're not always perfect, right? We don't always have all the answers, and everybody's got different perspectives. But if we try to stay in our heart space and go, is this decision bringing life, more life than less life, then that's a pretty good indication of what we should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very practical awareness that you can practice continuously in your life, and that one thing will change your life.
I tend to substitute the word joy in that decision. Like, will this create more joy in my life?
I would go with that. Making a decision for life is always going to be more joyful than making a decision against life. So I think joy is...
Well, that's just me personally. I'm not saying that applies to everybody.
No, I understand. If you're bringing joy to yourself and to others, you're bringing life. Joy to me is kind of like the after effect of the decision, but you can look at it either way.
It's an emotion.
It's an emotion. It is an emotion. And joy is different than happiness. Happiness is fleeting, okay? I'm happy because I got a new car, or because I got this parking space, or because one of my kids, made a good decision or whatever. But true joy is this deep, everlasting peace. It's a calm space. And as you continue down your spiritual path, that everlasting peaceful joy is someplace that you can be in all the time. And
That's a goal.
yeah, it's a goal. I mean, it's part of the symphony, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's part of tearing off the mud and the lacquered, the misbeliefs that we've been lacquered with. But as that happens and we become more light, we also become more joyful. And that still doesn't mean that you don't get angry. Jesus got angry in the temple, flipped all the fucking tables over, right?
Right.
But he was a master of his emotions. He knew when it was proper to use that warring yang energy, okay? And he knew when it was proper, when the woman, the harlot, and the Pharisees and Sadducees or whoever were going to stone her. And Jesus said, those without sin, pick up the first stone and throw that rock.
Right?
Yeah. And there is that joke about Jesus is there, says that, and everybody kind of starts to walk away. And then this rock comes flying out of the background and hits this lady.
Uh-huh.
And Jesus turns around and he goes, "Mom."
Oh, no.
It's kind of a Catholic
No.
joke, because they're Catholics and that marries, without sin type of thing. So anyway.
I always have trouble with stories like that because one assumes that the term harlot means you've had many sexual partners. Well, where were those sexual partners? Were they there
Yeah.
with rocks in their hands.
Yeah.
You know, that's such a, I just have so many deep issues with that line of thought.
I know you do. And we don't need to go down that
we won't go down that
route.
path.
But, you know, I mean, in this world, the hierarchy is primarily male. Okay. And females have taken a really bad rap in a lot of areas, and that's one of them. Okay. Because there was two people
Involved.
Involved when that sex was happening.
Yep.
There was two people, but it sure does seem a lot easier to throw a rock at the female for whatever reason, because of this male hierarchy that we've had for so long.
Yeah. Well, we won't dig into that this morning. Let's go back to your two awarenesses.
Oh, yes.
The one we haven't talked about yet is the choices we make about how we spend our energy.
Yeah. So first awareness is we choose life or not life. Okay. The second awareness, and these two things are just so powerful to me. Often I'll ask people, I'll go, tell me what you spent the most time thinking about in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, you know what that is in my world.
Yes, I do. It has to do with coding, as in programming. But wherever our focus is, whatever we're spending our most time thinking about, that is where our energy is going. Okay? And in any given day, in this world, in this realm, in this simulation, we only have so much energy and so many hours in a day. And then at night we have to rest, you know. And we can talk about all dreams and nights and all what that means too. But we only have so much energy. If we spend energy on being angry or on doing frivolous things, or in fear, we spend a lot of energy in fear, and fear robs your energy very quickly. But if you start thinking about where you spend your energy, where you spend your time and your thought process, that's where your life is going. Okay? Your life force is going toward that thing, just like this whole book and my spiritual thought process. I've spent a lot of time in my life using my life force to try to understand why we're here and how to be joyful, how to be peaceful, and how to create in wholeness and holiness. But I still spend time in fear like everybody else, and you worry about money and you do all these things. But as you continue to look at where and how you spend your energy, you can, with awareness, go, was that the best use, not just of time, was that the best use of my energy, of my spiritual force, of my spiritual divinity? Is that the best way that I can spend that? And when you start looking at that, I'll say, not you, I'll say when I start looking at that, okay, when we start looking at that, we find that a lot of times we spend our energy very frivolously. And if you want to make changes in your life, you don't have to force anything. All you have to do is bring awareness to it. And I've got a chapter, I think it's awareness is the beginning of change. But when you look at how you're spending your energy and with awareness, and then you'll go, wow, I just spent, 6 hours watching Netflix or whatever.
Right.
And not that Netflix is bad. We have to have recreation.
Flipping through my phone.
Yes. Flipping through your phone. Phones are very addictive, obviously, right?
Right.
But, it's important for us to have recreation because the word recreation means recreate.
Yeah.
it's important to go on vacation because vacation means vacate, okay?
Yeah.
We're creating space to rest, okay? But as we start to look at where we spend our energy with awareness, there are large chunks of energy in almost all our lives that are frivolous, are not bringing about wholeness in us or in others.
Mm-hmm.
And if you realize it's just like if you get one glass of water a day, I mean, that's all you can have. You're going to start looking real closely at when and how I'm going to drink that water.
Mm-hmm.
That water is life-giving. It's important. And if you start thinking about your energy in that way, then you'll look at it with awareness and you'll realize, oh, I really spent a bunch of energy there needlessly. Okay?
You know, that's a real broad topic for a lot of us. Not only do I catch myself flipping through my phone and just wasting time playing, Angry Birds, but I catch myself accepting invitations to volunteer projects or to do different things out in the community that have value, but they're not on target for what I'm trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to feel honored that you got the invitation.
Sure.
But I think you have to put some real thought into where are you investing your energy, your time. And if it's not directly into things that you want to be working on, maybe you need to turn those invitations down. There are a lot of things that steal energy from us way beyond just our phones and our TVs.
Yes.
It's how do we engage with the world? And I've used the phrase on brand lately, and that sounds very marketing speak or whatever, but it's like, is this on target for how I want to live my life? And I kind of think about energy in terms of investing and not spending.
Mm-hmm.
I've got so much of it. Where do I put it that's going to achieve the best for me long term?
Agreed.
Just like if I were investing in the stock market.
Exactly.
Same concept.
Our energy gets wicked away.
So easy.
So easy. And so we have to look at where we're putting our energy.
Yeah.
With awareness. Because I believe that we all come into this world have different skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Skills are learned, but we all have different tendencies and attributes. Okay. And I'll often think about God's like in the kitchen and he's making a lease and maybe we're all cakes. Okay.
Uh-huh.
But he makes a lease with, maybe some ginger in here or maybe a little chocolate or less sweet or more sweet or whatever it is. A little more flour, a little
he left out the
flour,
patience.
and left out the patience. Exactly. It's those type of things but we're all individual threads, but those threads are woven together in this huge tapestry.
Mm-hmm.
And without the beauty of each individual thread, the tapestry is not as beautiful. And if we come into this world, which I believe we do, with some type of overarching purpose, okay, then as we strip ourselves of our false beliefs and our pain and trauma, okay, and we become more light, we become enlightened, we become liberated, then we move closer and closer to that purpose. And as we move closer to that purpose, our thread becomes more colorful, more powerful, okay? And literally what we are trying to give into the world is our true essence, our true purpose. And everything vibrates at a different vibration level. And our true purpose, our true vibration that we're trying to bring into the world gets stronger and stronger as we get closer to controlling our energy and mastering ourselves and living inside the purpose that we were supposed to be. And if you can imagine just this huge ball of vibratory energy that has a very specific purpose in this world, and nobody else can bring that exact purpose into the world but us. Other people bring similar purposes, okay? Lots of spiritual people around, right? I mean, lots of gurus and that type of stuff. But everybody's got a little bit different slant, a little bit, because we all resonate with certain people, okay, and certain situations. But that big, perfect, vibratory energy is our goal here on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the light. And that is the purpose that we come to bring into this world to help all the other souls. And the word soul comes from the word anime in Latin, which means to animate. Our souls is energy from God, like comes down through our soul, and our soul is a collection of these vibratory energies and memories and things. And that soul is what animates me, and your soul animates you. It's still divine, but it's almost filtered in a way like through you, like the different recipes in the cake and the patients or the non-patients. So that's kind of where we're headed, is if we can strip ourselves to get down to our core beauty, that it's like a laser, okay? If we take our energies and it's scattered all over, you don't have much impact. But when you take a laser and focus it, it has huge fucking impact, right? Burn through all type of shit.
Right.
Destroy whatever. And that's as we get closer to this large vibratory energy that we are birthing into the universe, okay, then we become powerful. We become peaceful. We become joyful. We become people that can create in wholeness, holiness, and symmetry.
So how do you think we recognize what our purpose is?
That's a good question. It's a slow unfolding. I mean, you know, some people know they want to be doctors. You know, sometimes kids know they want to be doctors. My son had wanted to be a priest ever since he was young. And we raised him Catholic, okay? But not all my children are even practicing Catholicism, or not all my children wanted to be priest, right? But from an early age, he would practice being a priest, and he would, you know, line us up in the hallway in chairs, and he would put an altar up, and he would get those little wafer thin, I don't know what they're called, NECCOs, those little pieces of candy that are colored that look like communion wafers. And he would be a priest and have a reading and give us all communion, and, you know, with these little wafers. And I remember the story, his name, he grew up, his name was William Gabriel. But he went into the Benedictine monastery, and so he's a monk. But then he also became a priest, which is another secondary thing. Priest meaning that he could say mass and give out communion and those type of things, and give marry people and unction before death, those type of things. The sacraments inside the Catholic Church. But I remember Gabriel, when he was laying on the bed, he was my child that went to bed early,
Yeah.
And got up very early. The rest of them, are like us. They went to bed late and just got up whenever they had to. But it was a Saturday morning, and I walked into his room, and he was laying across the bed, and he had the Catholic catalog open, and it had the robes and the incense and all the paraphernalia. And I said to Gabe, Gabe, what do you love most about the Catholic Church? I said, is it the spirituality, or is it all the paraphernalia? And he goes, 50-50. And this is at age, 8, 9, 10,
Wow.
11, 12 maybe. I don't think any older than 12. He later on went to St. Bernard Preparatory School, which is also a monastery that's an hour north of Birmingham. And then he became a monk, and then he became a priest. And that was in him way before he ever got birthed into this earth. There's no question in my mind about that. He was always just down that path. So to answer your question, sometimes it's hard to figure out exactly what our purpose is. But as we continue to clear the mud off of us, as you so rightly gave us that visual, then we become more in tune with our inner spirit, with our divine spirit. As we become more in tune with our divine spirit, then our unfolding becomes more clear. And when you sit in the hand of God, if you're truly sitting in the hand of God, then God pushes you in. And it's not really a push as much as it is a call, but puts you into the opportunities that are meant for you, and the people that you meet, and the situations. And as all that continues to happen, then you continue to unfold toward your divine purpose.